Come get your tips and tactics on the brand new Space Marine Codex.
Spiky Bits.
What's up, hobby maniacs? Rob Baer, back again with you today. I can't remember a time when I wasn't recording videos on the new Space Marine Codex. No, this is a great book. Like I said in the last video, where we went over the changes to the book with our expertly handwritten list here. Good luck at deciphering that. I can barely read it myself. That this is probably one of the best written codexes, I feel like, out there. And of course, it doesn't hurt that it's a 208-page monstrosity right here. It's almost 3/4 of an inch big. This thing is chock full of great new fluff and, of course, the rules resources for all of the Angels of Death. Well, I guess not all of them. There's still a few books to come out here in the near term. But today we're going to talk about, I always like doing these breakdowns, going through the rules. But what I like to do is I like to start with like the war gear and the Warlord traits and anything extra that they have in the back. And I think that is probably one of the best places to start, especially with this book, just being the fact that everything is almost free. You can just kind of take it. You know, sometimes you have to spend command points and things, but for the most part, you just get kind of what you want in this book, you know? And I think that's great. I think it's very forward thinking on Games Workshop's part. And, you know, kudos to all the development team out there that has, at first look, seemed to do a really great job on this book in general. So let's jump right into it. And I'll tell you what, you know, if you haven't picked up this data card deck, it's a really good deck. About half the deck, 41 cards, is the Stratagems with the 6 chapters, or the 6 Space Marine specific stratagems. And then the other ones towards the front here are going to be your psychic powers, right? But not only is it the 6 psychic powers, but they also give you the smite card, because we can all use a little bit more smite in our life. The 6 new ones, and then the stratagem, there's the 26 stratagems right here, but also they give you the 3 stratagems that come in the main rule book. So you get 29 stratagem cards, which I thought was pretty neat, because sometimes you forget those, and then you're like, oh crap, I could have rerolled. I mean, we all know you can rerolls, but you know, it kind of helps you out from a perspective where you might remember things a little bit better having these game aids on your tabletop there, you know, to look at and such. So I'm kind of digging it. I really think this is worth the money. However, it's not going to have any of your data sheets. It's not going to have your Warlord traits. What else does not have in here? I guess that's mostly it. So you got stratagems in the back of the book. You've got your chapter tactics. You got your Warlord traits. Oh, they're not going to have the chapter tactics. That's what it was. And your chapter relics right there. And then, of course, your Librarian discipline and your tactical objectives, which are the 6 Space Marine specific ones to the Maelstrom deck. So let's start with the Librarian discipline right off the bat, because I think that is a good place. Of course, we saw 3 of these in the Index Imperium 1. I want to say it was Veil of Time, Psychic Scourge, and I want to say it was Null Zone, but I might be wrong right off the bat there. But they're all in here, but of course we've got 3 new ones as well. So of course, Veil of Time lets you re-roll. You can cast it on anything within 18, and it's going to have a warp charge value of 6. Now what's also cool about these cards here is it's going to tell you all these stats right at the bottom, right? So it's going to tell you how many warp charge, boom, right there, and it's going to tell you what it is, and it's going to be literally the same exact thing right there on top of it. Let me get to it. So you've got your smite, which we all know is great. Sometimes you want to use your command point reroll to get that 10, which I think is pretty dope right there. So Veil of Time, there it is. Warp charge value of 6. You can pick Adeptus Astartes within 18 until the next psychic phase. Reroll charge rolls and advance rolls for that unit, and they always fight first in the fight phase, even if they didn't charge. Tiebreaker, you know, priority, depending on who went or whose actual player turn it is. Mighty Heroes, I think this is a really good one, and it's probably undervalued by a lot of folks. Warp Charge 6, it's a 12-inch range, Adeptus Astartes target. Until the start of your next psychic phase, add 1 to them all strength, toughness, and attack characteristic. And what's cool about that is it's going to get a lot of your characters and such up to 6 and 7 wounds, and also a lot more attacks. Now you can cast it on just about anybody. You can cast it on vehicles, you can cast it on characters, you know, all sorts of things out there. So Redemptor Dreadnought, yeah, I'm looking at you, dog. You ready to power up? Even the Contemptor hits on 2s. So, you know, there's a lot of cool stuff, a lot of good uses with this. And also to tweak, if you know something's in a hand-to-hand and you don't want people hitting it on 2s, or you don't want people hitting it on a lower kind of value, you could maybe bump it up toughness +1 and then keep it, you know, tactically out of, you know, average dice roll range right there. Psychic score, just kind of like mine where we saw in the past. Each player, it's a warp charge 6. The Psyker rolls his leadership plus a d6. You pick a visible enemy unit within 18, so you can. Apparently, this is not shooting. Remember, in Psychic phase, you can snipe out characters. Pick out a character if you want, or pick out something else. They roll a d6, add the leadership. If it's par, it does 1. If it's over, you're going to do d3 mortal wounds, and if it's less, nothing happens. So I feel like the odds are with you on that one right there. Fury of the Ancients, another great one, I feel like. Reward charge is 7, your range is 3d6, you make a line, and everything between it takes 1 mortal wound. And each enemy unit the line passes over or through suffers a mortal wound. We've seen variants on this spell throughout the years, and here it is coming back with a vengeance right there. Now the average roll, as far as I can tell on 3d6, is 11, so it seems pretty good as far as that goes right there. Psychic Fortress, this one's kind of cool. It's good to have in your back pocket if you need it. Target Adeptus Astartes with an 18 until the start of your next Psychic phase. The unit automatically passes morale, and you can roll a d6 each time it suffers a mortal wound from an enemy psychic power. On a 4-up, it is ignored. This is a great counter character sniping psychic power right there that can really help preserve some of your squishy units. Remember, psychic powers are another great way to snipe out flyers and not have the neg1 to hit them as well. Nozlone, this is probably going to be a combo breaker of sorts. Psychic Fortress is 5 warp charge. It's 8 warp charge, and it is quite powerful. Every enemy model within 6 inches of the Psyker that casts this cannot take invulnerable save unless half the results of any psychic test rounding up they take. So you throw this on and you wade into the middle of their army, or perhaps buffered by a squad of Marines or a squad of troops, so you can't be targeted because you're a character, and you can maybe do a lot of work with that. It could be situational, but again, with everything dropping in and stuff, I could definitely see some very tactful uses for it right there. So those are the Librarian discipline. We don't need to go over tactical objectives. We do need to go over chapter relics, which I feel like is, maybe let's hit Warlord traits first, because I feel like Warlord traits are really good. Now here's the thing that a lot of people seem to be missing out on. If you take a named character in your army, like Marneus, like Guilliman or something like that, they automatically get this Warlord trait right here based on their chapter. So not only is Guilliman a super Billy badass and lets people reroll and all the stuff that Guilliman's known for, just being a G in combat, he would also get Adept of the Codex, which would confer the ability to, on a 5-up, anytime you spend a command point, you get a command point back, which is pretty neat. Same with, you know, any Ultramarine character out there. For the White Scars, roll each time a Warlord finishes charge move within 1, and then on a 4-up they suffer a mortal wound, so it's kind of like a little Hammer of Wrath right there. Imperial Fists have a pretty cool one. Anybody within 6 inches of your Warlord get a +1 to their saving throws against attacks with an AP characteristic of -1, so sufficiently negating it. The Crimson Fists, if there are at least 10 enemy models within 6 inches of your Warlord, when he fights in a fight phase, add D3 to his attacks until the end of the phase. So they're famous for their last stands or their forlorn hopes. Black Templar's Oathkeeper, I think this one's pretty good, can perform a heroic intervention if the enemy units are within 6 rather than 3, and can move up to 6 inches when doing so. So, you know, closing the gap and really trying to snipe out those characters a la Sigismund back in the day. Then you got Salamanders, the Anvil of Strength, add 1 to the strength characteristic of your Warlord. Short, sweet, simple, and I think it's, you know, underwhelmingly good with comboed with some other stuff like, you know, Fury of the Ancients or Might of the Heroes. So there's some combo abilities out there. Raven Guard, now this has combo potential here as well. Silent Stalker, enemy units cannot fire Overwatch at your Warlord. But there's some other things you can do here where you can combo this with being able to set up 9 inches away from an enemy unit, kind of getting the drop on them. Then you can psychically buff your guys and maybe try to go in and deliver a killing blow or decapitating strike with some of the abilities that the Raven Guard can get through their stratagems, but also through the psychic powers out there as well. Iron Hands, each time you roll a hit of 6 for your Warlord, make 1 extra attack at the same target using the same weapon. This cannot generate further attacks. You cannot go infinite with this one, unfortunately. And then your basic ones, which you can choose from if you're not if you're not a named character over here. However, you can also choose these, but you're not locked into taking these if you aren't fielding a named character. So you got Angel of Death, subtract 1 from your leadership characteristic of enemies within 6 inches of your Warlord. The Imperium Sword, reroll failed charge rolls for your Warlord. In addition, if your Warlord charges in the charge phase, add 1 to his attack characteristic until the end of the fight phase. Iron Resolve is add 1 to the wounds characteristic of your Warlord. In addition, roll a dice each time he loses a wound. On a 6-up, shrugs it off. Do not lose the wound. 4, Storm of Fire, which I like this one. Each time you roll a wound, a 6 or more, a friendly chapter unit within 6. In the shooting phase, the armor pen characteristic of that attack is increased by 1, i.e. AP0 becomes -1, -1 becomes -2, etc., etc., etc. So that could combo pretty well with some stuff just on the fly with lots of rates of fire, stuff like the aggressors and things like that out there, and definitely have some potential. Rites of War, friendly chapter units within 6 of your Warlord automatically pass morale tests. I mean, obviously, that's good for a lot of situations. Champion of Humanity, add 1 to all hit and wound rolls made for this Warlord in a fight phase when targeting enemy characters. So he's a G and combat. He doesn't reroll once, he's adding. So he's not rerolling, he's just adding right there. So that combo as well with a lot of the captain auras or, Gilliman's aura himself. So adding +1 and then getting a reroll, I don't even know what the math is on that, but it seems to me you can't double stamp and triple stamp at that point. You're all in on that kind of tactics right there. All right, let's jump over. Let's talk about chapter tactics real quick. I'm kind of trying to work around the stratagems and the war gear there. So chapter tactics, we've seen these. These were teased on Games Workshop site for a long time. They only apply to infantry, biker, and dreadnought keywords in your army. So you can pick from these. They're just in effect. They're just popping off. Just like good to go. Okay, cool. Thank you. If you have any of these, then don't forget to use them. So for instance, Ultramarines, all Ultramarines of this keyword right here. This is the one where they can fall back, and if they do, they can still shoot. They just subtract -1. The White Scars one, pretty powerful. They not only get to advance an extra 2 inches, so they would automatically turbo boost 8 for bikes, but they basically get hit and run back. They can still charge in a turn that they fell back. So they can't shoot, but they can still fall back, charge, right back into combat. So use that to your advantage, as we saw in the past. Imperial Fist Siege Masters. Enemies do not receive the benefit of saving throws for being in cover, and make sure you check the FAQ for a little bit of clarifications on ruins there that just came out recently. You may also reroll failed wound rolls for Imperial Fist with this tactics if they are targeting a building. Black Templars, I think this one's pretty good. Reroll failed charge rolls for Black Templar units with this tactic right there. So they're going to come in clutch. Salamanders allows 1 unit to reroll a single failed hit roll and a single failed wound roll made for any of the Salamanders units. So that could come in pretty clutch when you're shooting a las cannon or some other high value weapon and you really need it to score home or deliver that coup de grace and take out a big baddie across the table for yourself. Raven Guard, now this one is where it is starting to get good for the Raven Guard. Subtract 1 for any hit rolls when shooting at Raven Guard units with this tactic if they are more than 12 inches away. So it won't apply if you try to drop them in and deploy them using their stratagem within the 9 or more, so to speak, if you're within that 9 to 12 bubble. But for the most part, it's going to give them a little bit more bonus for getting across the table. And the Iron Hands, the flesh is weak. Roll 1 dice each time a model of this tactic loses a wound. On a 6-up, the damage is ignored, and the model does not lose a wound. Now, I'm not sure how that works with multiple damage rolls. If you roll once, so you roll, like if it's something does 3 damage, you roll 3 dice, and on a 6, it might block one of them. But if that's the case, it seems kind of lackluster. If you have a chance to kind of try to deflect it before it gets through, that might be a little better. But overall, I think that might be the weakest of all of them right there. And there's our 26 stratagems. Let's jump over to the relics real quick and talk about those for a second. So the chapter relics are really kind of where it's at. They adopted the Age of Sigmar, philosophy, or the Age of Sigmar way, that where you just basically get them. Like, hey, if you have a character, you get a chapter relic. Okay, that seems pretty good. Now, in Age of Sigmar, if you took a battalion, which was basically like a formation for Age of Sigmar, another character could get a relic, and that isn't quite the case in this one. So if your army is led by a Space Marine Warlord, you may give one of the chapter relics to a Space Marine character in your army. Named characters cannot get the following relics. So in order to get more relics, you basically have to unlock the stratagem that says, hey, spend some command points, you get more relics. And that's the only way to do it. It's a little bit different from Age of Sigmar, but you know, it's a little bit more restrictive because these are inherently pretty good, to be quite honest. There's some really neat ones in here. So let's kick them off, let's count them down. The Armor Indominus, oh, and some of them replace existing war gear, and they will say it in the entry there as well. The wearer of this armor has a save characteristic of 2 up. In addition, once per battle before making one of the wearer's saving throws, you may choose to activate the armor's force field. If you do so, you get a 3 up invulnerable for the remainder of that turn. Remember, it's player turn, battle round, so it's only going to be for your turn, or perhaps, I guess you could activate it in your fight phase of your turn, or you could activate it during your enemy's shoot phase of their turn, and it would end at the end of the enemy's turn. Remember, it does not last for the battle round from the way it is worded here. Shield Eternal, coming back on strong. Models with a Storm Shield or Combat Shield only, so it replaces it. This relic grants the bearer a 3 up invulnerable save, and any damage they suffer is halved, rounding up. So those little pings of 1 are still going to get through, but let me tell you what, not much else. So it's going to take even longer, by a third perhaps, to get your model down to 0 wounds that has the Shield Eternal. So that seems pretty good. That might be an auto include in a lot of lists out there, I feel like. Standard of the Emperor Ascendant, it is just your standard banner here. Add 1 to the dice roll to see if any friendly models within 6 of the banner can summon the strength to make 1 final attack when slain. In addition, while within 6 friendly Adeptus Astartes automatically pass morale, while enemies subtract 1 from their leadership. The Teeth of Terra, this is worded a little differently. You have to give it to a model with a chainsword. It replaces the bearer's chainsword with the following profile: melee, +1 strength, -2 AP, 2 damage right there. However, it looks like each time the bearer fights, so if you have 4 attacks, you get 4d3 additional attacks with this weapon. I think that's how it works. That's semantics. That seems to be okay, but somebody correct me in the comments if that is incorrect. But I believe that's how, you know, the Night Titan Happy Feet works, so I feel like we're good to go right there. Primarch's Wrath, 24-inch bolter with an actual, Storm Bolter with an actual AP value and a +1 strength, and it does 2 damage. So if you're rocking a bolt gun or a mastercrafted bolt gun, this replaces it with the following profile. Oh, it is bolt gun, sorry. I'm thinking Storm Bolter. I don't know why I got Storm Bolter on the brain. The only cure is definitely way more bolt shells. Burning Blade right here. Models with the Power Sword or Mastercrafted Power Sword only. The Burning Blade replaces the bearer's Power Sword or Mastercrafted Power Sword. And it has the following profile: melee, +2 strength, -5 AP, but it only does 1 damage right there. So hit them where it counts and take them down quick, because those attacks will get through, but they're only going to do 1 damage, so you got to be careful there. Chapter Relic right here, and this is why it might be worth it to do the 3 command points. Remember, if you take Guildbane, you get 3 free command points, so you could theoretically get 3 relics. Hey guys, I woke up, where's my Shield Eternal, my Tome of Malkador, and I don't know, the crazy bolt gun? Give me those, go get them. You, there, in the little cloth, the little short guy, go get my go get my stuff. I spent the command points. And that's how it may look to do it. So the Tome of Malkador is pretty good, because if you just got a stock Librarian, you could throw it on him. He gets an extra power, right? Seems pretty dope. Now, I was thinking that you could give it to Tigris, but I don't think that's correct, unfortunately, because he is a named character. But when you start getting a higher percentage of just being able to select those psychic powers and have them in your back pocket to use along with Smite, seems like it might be pretty good. The Salamander Mantle doesn't work like it used to, but it does increase the toughness by 1. There's a lot of toughness increases and things for the Salamanders. Better watch out for those guys. There's some craziness going on. The Axe of Medusa, it's upgradable to a model with a power axe only, which we saw a lot of things were nerfed to just allow the upgrade to a power axe. It replaces the Bear's power axe, like I said, melee, +2 strength, -2 AP, and D2 damage. It doesn't look like it has a restriction on, you know, swinging or anything like that. No neg 1 to hit or any crazy unwieldiness out there. So that's pretty cool to see. Raven's Fury. The bearer of the Raven's Fury can advance and charge the same turn. Furthermore, the bearer can reroll failed charge rolls. Throw that on a character, drop them in more than 9 inches away. Maybe do some other crazy stuff there. Make him immune to Overwatch. He's automatically neg 1 to hit normally. You might be able to take some stuff down or just kind of set up some responses by your opponent that he cannot ignore because of you're messing with Vader's buttons, so to speak. Mantle of the Stormseer. This is for the White Scars. The wearer of the mantle adds 1 to the psychic power test when attempting to manifest the smite power, which is great for getting them aircraft or pesky characters. The Fist of Vengeance is a power fist that replaces a power fist. Melee times 2 strength, neg 3 AP, D3 damage to the face. I think it's it's an extra AP and an extra damage there over the normal power fist, which just went down in price. Points value, surprisingly enough. The Sanctic Halo, I feel this one's good. Gilliman would definitely get that little short guy on ropes to go get this for him. The Sanctic Halo, the bearer of the Sanctic Halo has a 3-up invulnerable save and can attempt to deny 1 psychic power in each enemy psychic phase, in the same manner as a psyker. Dun dun dun. Seems good. And you don't even have to have a storm shield. You just get it. Hey, this is happening. Stop fighting it. The Crusader's Helm, Black Templars only. The wearer of the helm increases the range of any aura abilities on its status sheet, such as Rites of Battle, Litanies of Hate, etc., by 3 inches. In the Spartian, or Tian, I don't know how to say that. I can barely talk on a normal basis. Imperial Fist models with a bolt pistol only. This replaces the bearer's bolt pistol and is the following profile. It is Pistol 2, Strength 4, neg 1 AP with 2 damage right there, so it's not heavy. It does have a negative AP, so it's like a heavy bolter without the heaviness, and it can target enemy characters even though they are not the closest model to the bearer. So I think that one's pretty cool as well. So we've covered the Librarians, we've covered the chapter relics, we've covered the Warlord traits, we covered the chapter tactics. The only thing that's left is, of course, the stratagems. And there's a lot of these. It's 25 of them. So we're going to drone on for a hot minute. Thanks for hanging in there with us. I guess you could say we have saved the best for last. So here's the tactical objectives. There's the stratagems. You can definitely tell there's 41 of those and 26 of those right there. So starting with no particular order, you've got the command reroll, the counteroffensive, and the insane bravery. These are all the ones out of the rulebook. You get to attack second after your enemy charges in during their turn for 2 command points. Insane bravery, automatically pass a single morale test for 2 command points, and your command point reroll 1 command point to reroll any dice out there. We all know those. We're not stupids. We've been playing this for at least a month and a half, right? Then we get into the stratagems themselves, all 26 of them. So here we go. Relics of the chapter. This one's good. Use the stratagem before the battle. Your army can have 1 extra chapter relic for 1 command point, or 2 for 3, or all the chapter relics, all the chapter relics you include must be different and given to different Space Marine characters. So it's, I misspoke. I thought it was 3, and I'm sure that's a common thing because I've been reading that online as well. It's 2 for 3 command points, so it definitely has a cumulative upkeep there. But I feel like after reading some of those relics right there, we understand why. And then we've got the cool ones. We've got the Linebreaker Battalion, the Kill Shot, and I think there's the one with the data link telemetry. These all confer abilities that used to come for free with when you took like 3 Vindicators or 3 Predators or a Whirlwind along with a Land Speeder. So first off, the Linebreaker Bombardment. This one's pretty cool. They changed it a little bit. If a Vindicator is within 6 inches of 2 other friendly chapter Vindicators, so no, it's 6 inches and not 4 like it used to be back in the day, they cannot fire their normal Demolisher Cannon. Instead, pick a visible point on the battlefield within 24 of all 3 vehicles. Roll a die for each unit. Friend or foe within 3 inches of that point, add 1 to the result if the unit being rolled for has 10 or more models, but subtract 1 if the unit being rolled for has a character. On a 4-up, that unit suffers 3d3 mortal wounds, which math says will be 6 mortal wounds. So you catch a character out in the cut, you catch a squad of something out in the cut, I guess theoretically you can plop this down and it could kind of danger close into combat as well. I mean, there's nothing in here saying that that is not the case. Normally you cannot fire into combat. I don't know, might need some clarification there, but rules is written, it seems like you can. Kill shot over here. If a predator is within 6 of 2 other predators, you can reroll 1 or add 1 to the wound rolls and damage for all the predator's attacks that target monsters or vehicles in this phase. So there's your keyword, hotness right there. And then the data link. This is going to allow your whirlwind, if it's visible to a chapter land speeder within 12, the whirlwind's attacks automatically hit. Now, I'm not sure it's super worth it at this point, but you never know what we'll see out there that could definitely make that a little bit more robust. Chapter Master, this is how you get, this is the only way you get to Chapter Master. Spend 3 command points, upgrade your captain to a Chapter Master, and now he becomes a mini Robbie G. All models or all units within 6 now can reroll all failed to hit rolls, reroll any failed hit rolls for friendly chapter units within 6 of this model. And remember, if you pop off that Scions and Guilliman, that's going to give you additional bonuses on top of this as well. So we know this is better than a normal captain ability. Is it worth 3 command points? Well, that's up to you at this point. There's the Scions and Guilliman. So it pops off for any infantry or ultramarine bikers. This selected to attack in the shooting or fight phase. Reroll all hit rolls of 1, which is probably more powerful than +1 at this point. For the rest of the phase, if the unit is tactical or intercessor, I'll reroll all failed hit rolls instead. So it could work like the Robbie G if you happen to be out of range of perhaps your Warlord or Robbie G himself. Well, I don't know why you wouldn't take Robbie G as your Warlord, but it is what it is. Orbital Bombardment is 3 command points. This one's pretty good too. Of course, remember, Guilliman comes with 3 command points. You can get 9 command points from a battalion. You can get, what, 3 from a patrol, I think. I may be misspeaking there. I don't have the rule book handy, but either way, there's plenty of ways out there to get these command points. You can use this once per battle. Any of your Adeptus Astartes Warlords that did not move during your movement phase, instead of shooting with your Warlord's weapon, select a visible point on the battlefield and roll a d6 for every unit within d6 of that point. Subtract 1 if you're rolling for a character, and on a 4 up overall, the unit being rolled for suffers d3 mortal wounds, which on average is 2. So could be worth it. Definitely a good combo if you got some Vindicators on the board. You know, there's some other ways out there to do some crazy stuff too, and just, you know, try to target people with psychic powers and things like that. That could come in handy before you even get to your shooting phase. You know, that's the very first thing you do in your shooting phase. You throw out a bunch of psychic powers, do a bunch of mortal wounds to a lot of different things that you can specifically target using those psychic powers, and then maybe coup de grace with the orbital bombardment, or coup de grace with, you know, that Vindicator super barrage there at the end. Cluster mines, I talked about this in the last video. If you do actually take scout bikers, which I could see the appeal, and you do that fall back move, if you're within 1 inches of a unit before it moves, roll a d6. On a 2 up, the enemy suffers d3 mortal wounds. So if you fall back, remember, you can still shoot. You're just -1 if you're Ultramarines at that point. Ultramarine only, of course. You could, on a 2 up, do an average of 2 mortal wounds to 1 enemy unit. Is it worth 1 command point? Well, that's up to you, but damage in the movement phase is not damage in the shooting phase, so it's very hard to do, so it could be worth those command points. Born in a Saddle, White Scars Biker unit, whenever they advance, you can still shoot and charge this turn. Remember, they can still fall back and recharge, but they can't shoot. This would make you able to shoot. Right there, one use per command point. Masterful Marksman. This is a really good one with Sternguard. We talked about this in the last video here. This one might be going a little long. I still got about half the deck here, but then we're going to finish it up. This stratagem, Sternguard are really good. Their guns went down a point, and now you can pop this off for 1 command point. Whenever they're selected to attack in the shooting phase, you can add 1 to all wound rolls made for that unit's special issue bolt gun attacks in that phase. Now, their bolt guns are -2 damage, 30-inch range. They are strength 4, and a lot of people are like, yo, they suck, they're strength 4, they're stupid, why would you shoot that at like anything? Well, the reason you would shoot it at anything is right off the bat, if you shoot a strength 4 weapon at toughness 7, you don't need a 5, you need a 4 at that point. Now you're gonna need a 3 to wound something, a light armored vehicle. So imagine shooting a rapid fire weapon that's gonna get a lot of shots at a light armored vehicle at that point, okay? So that's a very important distinction because you're gonna be dishing out a lot of damage here. So you got 4, -2, D1 damage, okay? So on anything that is strength 7 or less, normally you wound on 4s, now you wound on 3s. Anything that's strength 8, which normally you wound on 5s, now you're wounding on 4s, and so on and so forth. So this weapon actually has almost the same damage output as far as my math is concerned as like the crack missile right here at strength 8, because if you're shooting, again, and this is heavy, so you're gonna be -1 to hit if you try to do it and move. If you shoot something strength 8 at something toughness 7, well, you need 3s. Okay, well, you need 3s right there with these bolt guns. Like, think about that for a second. That's pretty good. That's good tech right there. That's a combo. Somebody write this one down. This is a combo. So I think this is key right here. And I imagine we're going to see a lot of this chapter tactic getting popped off as well because, man, it just seems so good. It's like it's a combo or something. Born in a Saddle, we did that one. Oh, back to the right pack right here. Abhor the Witch. This stratagem, when an enemy psyker manifests a psychic power within 24 inches of a Black Templar, roll a d6 on a 4-up, you just straight resist it. Not too bad for an army that can't take psykers. So a command point, you try to reroll it. I think that's pretty good. Maybe an auto include in your command point strategy for the Templars. Empiric Channeling. Hey, I remember where that's from. The Scourge of 7th edition. Dun dun dun. But it's back, and it's not as bad. Any psyker within 6 of at least 2 other friendly psykers. This psyker can immediately attempt to manifest 1 additional psychic power this turn. When attempting to manifest this power, you may add 2 to the psychic test as well. So that's going to bring a lot of your 5s and 6s pretty much to gimme level because they're already below average. So now you're going to be like below average by a lot, by a factor of like 2 on anything that's like strength 6. You're already below. Yeah, you're going to be below 2. So good odds here if you really need to get something off and you're not looking. You're trying to be immune to variance. But remember too, you take Malfador's Tome and you already know a lot of powers out there as well. So that seems pretty good. They'll let you pop off an additional. Hellfire Shell's probably situational. If you have the heavy bolter and you want to just snipe something out or something's in a flat or you just need to do that 1 extra point of damage, well, you can know that if you hit it, before you roll the hit, you have to say, hey, Hellfire Shell, spend your command point, and if it's good to go, well, you're going to do D3 mortal wounds. You might be able to knock out a light armored vehicles as well as perhaps, I think it just goes through if you hit. Yeah, if you just hit. So you're going to be able to, knock out maybe that last point or 2 on a heavy vehicle or a light armored vehicle or maybe a character if you catch them slipping. It's really hard to say. Bolter Drill, Imperial Fist, Infantry. In the shooting phase, each time you make a hit roll of 6 for a model firing, that model can immediately make another hit roll. You can't go infinite. They cannot cause and stack to themselves. A bolt weapon is any weapon that includes the word bolt in the name, including Pedro Cantor's Dorn's Arrow. Thanks, guys. Machine Empathy. This stratagem used just before an Iron Hands vehicle shoots in the shooting phase until the end. And I like how their attacks are universal now. Attacks both occur during the shooting phase and the close combat phase, or the assault phase, I guess it's called now. The vehicle can ignore the penalties for moving and firing a heavy weapon or advancing and firing an assault weapon right there. So that comes into play on anything that doesn't have Power of the Machine Spirit. For 1 command point, not being -1 to all your weapons, that might be pretty good. So keep an eye out for that one. Flamecraft, this is for the Salamanders. Used during the shooting phase. Add 1 to the wound rolls made for all that unit's flame weapons for purposes of stratagem. A flame weapon is defined here along with Vulcan Histan's Gauntlet of the Forge. Now, something very important to note here. We talked about the Stern Guard. Let's talk about this. Flame weapons, +1 to hit and the wound. So if you got a heavy flamer, that's strength 5, boys and girls. So strength 5 is gonna wound toughness 7 on a 4. Now it's wounding on a 3. It's gonna be wounding 8 on a 4. So that actually is pretty good. Like, it's gonna do, and remember, you don't even have to roll, wait a minute. Oh, you auto hit, that's right, okay. So you don't even have to roll the hit. You're just gonna be like, all right, well, before I roll a hit, I know I'm probably gonna get whatever, this many wounds, or this many hits, and then I'm going to wound 50-50 of those, so you can kind of do the math in your head and decide if you want to pop off that command point. Strike from the Shadows is the one we were talking about right here. Raven Guard Infantry. You can hold them back, but before the first turn begins, for every command point you spend per unit, you can set them up anywhere on the battlefield that's more than 9 inches away from the enemy unit. So this is a great way to set up a decapitating strike that they might be, well, they're not going to be -1 to hit unless they're more than 12 away, but they will be immune to Overwatch depending on what you take, war gear wise, etc., etc. So just kind of keep that in mind, that you can set up some wackiness with the Raven Guard right there. Auspex Scan. Oh my god, this is so good. So, Auspex Scan, immediately after your opponent sets up a unit that is arriving on the battlefield as reinforcements within 12 of one of your infantry units. So we all know the effective range of something dropping in and charging is you can't even launch an assault if you are not within 12. So if they're going to try to come in and alpha strike or decapitate strike one of your units, they're going to have to be within 12. Right then and there, this applies to any unit that was within 12 of one of your units. There's no bubble, there's no nothing like that. It's just, oh, you set up within 12 of one of my units? Boop. Let's do this. Your unit can immediately shoot at the enemy unit as if it were the shooting phase, but you must subtract 1 from the resulting hitting roll. So not only will you get to shoot at them when they arrive at -1, okay, just stay with me here. You're gonna get to shoot them when they arrive, but if they also try to assault you, you're gonna get to Overwatch, yes, on a 6, but you're gonna get 2, count them, 2 chances to shoot whatever is trying to come at you, bro. I feel like this is good for 2 command points. 3, too expensive. 1, it's a gimme, probably OP. 2, just right, Goldilocks style right there. Love it. Tactical flexibility. Use the stratagem at the start of any of your movement phases. Select a friendly Adeptus Astartes with the combat squad ability. Now, a lot of these has been added to their units. Check each and every unit that you can. Now you can split them immediately right on the table. So maybe you go after objectives or something like that. But the caveat is you have to have 10 models. So you can't take damage and then do it. So make those decisions appropriately. Flak Missile making its return. We all know flyers are a thing. They're still a thing. Don't think that you're not going to see flyers just because they don't, they don't count for sudden death or anything like that. Flyers, flyers are here to stay, folks. Maybe not, 6 Storm Ravens or 9 Crimson Hunters, but don't get it twisted. You're going to see flyers. This one allows you to, before you hit with a rocket launcher, you add 1 to the hit roll, and if it hits, the target suffers D3 mortal wounds right off the bat. So it's like a Smite Light. You still have to roll to hit. It's going to negate the -1 for shooting, but it's going to pop off D3 wounds. And guess what? It's for everyone, for Space Marines, Adeptus Astartes. There you go. So don't sleep on this one right here. Actually, it's not. Yeah, it's rocket launcher. Armor of Contempt. This one's pretty cool. When an Adeptus Astartes vehicle suffers a mortal wound, roll a D6. For that mortal wound, each other mortal wound inflicted on this model for the rest of the phase has a 5-up ignore effect right off the bat. So if somebody's trying to come at you and get that last little ding or point of damage off of one of your units, one of your vehicles, well, you might be able to spend your command point and be like, no, suck it, bro, not today. Only in death does duty end. He said duty. This stratagem, when an Adeptus Astartes character is slain, that model summons the strength for 1 final attack and can immediately either shoot as if it were a shooting phase or fight as if it were your fight phase. Not cumulative with the Astartes banner. This stratagem takes precedence. So you don't get to double dip, but for 2 points, if you don't have a banner handy, that seems pretty good. And of course, you got these. You have these all the time. You're like, hold on. Let me look through my cards. Let me see. All right, I got 2 aces. I'll play this. As long as you got the command points, you're good. Honor the chapter. Use this stratagem at the end of the fight phase. Select the Adeptus Astartes infantry or biker. That unit can immediately fight for a second time. For 3 command points. Yee, that could get pretty dirty. So be on the lookout for that one right there if you're trying to finish off and seize the day on that one to get through the enemy line. Wisdom of the Ancients. Oh, this is actually from the detachment as well from last edition. Or maybe it was an ability in the Space Marine Codex. I forget. Either way, this is not the first time we've seen this. It definitely was in Apocalypse first, but now it's making its return for the 3rd time. Use the stratagem at the start of any phase. Select a friendly chapter Adeptus Astartes Dreadnought until the end of the turn. You can reroll all hit rolls of 1 for chapter units within 6 inches of that Dreadnought. So This is pretty good for one command point. If you have a dreadnought on the table, which we all know how good dreadnoughts are, I feel like we'll see a lot of this popping off in games. Tremor shells, this is interesting. So we know the Thunderfire cannon, there was changes. It went up in points, but the weapon itself came down in points. But now the main cannon is -1 AP. However, you can pop this off when it's selected to attack, subtract 1 from the wound rolls when firing, not shooting, wound rolls. When firing, the Thunderfire cannon is phased, have his movement, if the target is hit, then during the next turn, have his movement characteristic and the result of any advance and charge rolls made for it. Tremor cells have no effect on Titanic and units that can fly. Important distinction there. So this will slow down units a lot more than it used to in the past. Before it was just kind of whatever. But this has the potential to buy you time, and time is worth at least 5 to 6 points in the game of 40K. I feel like maybe more. We'll have to, we'll have to run it by the developers and see how much time is worth in the game right there. Death to traitors. Use the stratagem when Adeptus Astartes unit is chosen to attack in the fight phase. Each time you roll a hit of 6 from a model in this unit during this phase, it can, if it was targeting a heroic Adeptus Astartes unit, immediately make an extra attack against it with the same unit using the same weapon. These attacks cannot themselves generate further attacks. Womp, womp, womp. So it's kind of like how Death to the False Emperor works on the Chaos side, but now it's Death to the traitors because they're the traitors. And they're the false followers of False Emperor. I don't know. Check my math on that. Might be right, might not be right. So that's it. All 26 of the stratagems right there, plus the 3 bonus ones for the main rulebook. And we done! Well, we didn't talk about any of these here data sheets right here, but I feel like pretty much if the data sheet hasn't changed since this book right here came out a month and a half ago, then I feel like we're good to go. Check out our video that we already put out on the changes between this book and the new Codex right here. Kind of give you some ideas on tips and tactics and combos and things like that. But overall, I think the strength lies in the stratagems, the chapter tactics, and of course the relics. And they're all just gimmies at that point, or you have to pay command points for them right here. So, it is possible that we're going to see a lot of revamps to a lot of different armies out there, but I feel like spam is still strong. Maybe not flyer spam, obviously, but spam is definitely still strong out there. You're still going to see a lot of multiples taken of units, and to be quite honest, the way the detachment structure is set up in Battleforged armies, I don't see why that wasn't anticipated by Games Workshop when you can take multiples of elites, fast attacks, heavies, and things like that. I feel like that was built into the rules at this point. Until those are nerfed or changed, well, there isn't much else we can do. But Games Workshop's definitely got their finger on the pulse of the meta and the competitive play scene with the changes we've seen made recently to Warhammer 40K. So kudos to them for doing such an awesome job and really coming into their own as a big boy company like FFG and of course Wizards of the Coast there. So that's it for this one, folks. That was our tips and tactics video. I guess technically part 2, because the first one we went over all the changes in points values and also the units themselves to the Codex book. So thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you can be the very first to like and comment on these videos. And head on over to thelongwar.net. That's the home of the 8th edition battle reports for exclusive content, early access videos, and more. Become a veteran of the Long War today.